we're not going to spool them ourselves. I don't think anybody here will spool them themselves. They'll get a spool at the tackle shop, and what you need to tell them on how you want your reel spool.
Yeah, generally speaking, I like to leave, and we're talking about spinning tackle. So generally with spinning tackle, I like to leave it, let's say, an eighth inch below the top edge on that spool arbor. That leaves me plenty of room so that it doesn't jump rope off of there, or have any loops that come off. We talked a little bit about, I think personally, it's very important that you flip that bail back shut with your hand. I don't like using the reel. As you turn the handle on the reel, the spool is actually turning. So it's kind of got the line sort of floating in midair there as the bail starts to close. And as that happens, I found it'll create a twist, one, and then as time goes on, that twist will get worse and worse. And then two, because we're fishing and we're paying attention to our fishing, a lot of times you won't notice. You may get it crossed over the top of the spool, and once that gets bound in there, say 7 or 8 wraps down, you end up with another loop inside of the line where it's kind of pinched in a twist, and those are hard to get rid of. They really are. A lot of times, like I say, I'll run that spool up to an eighth of an inch from the top of the arbor, and then I'll run my leader on top of that. And generally, depending on what I'm fishing for, but generally I'll run a leader. I use an FG knot personally. I've never had a problem with them. I found that once they're tied, and you'll know instantly once they're tied, because if they're not tied correctly, they'll slip right out. But once they're tied and they're locked in, I'll put a leader on that's long enough that I have, let's say, 3 wraps on top of the connection knot. I do that for a couple of reasons. It gives me a little bit more room to cut and retie as I'm going through the day. The most
And when,
important
when he
reason.
says when he says wraps, he's talking about wraps on the spool.
Wraps on the spool. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So what I want is that knot to hit the spool, and then I want that arbor to spin around maybe 2 or 3 times before I find the end of my leader when I'm starting. Obviously, if you're fishing, smaller fish, fun fishing around a canal or something, you don't have to go that long, but that's generally what I'll do. The most important thing, like I was saying, is those 3 wraps, is that I want that knot, that connection knot, on the arbor when the fish is closest to the boat. I mean, anybody here obviously fishes quite a bit. Generally speaking, a lot of fish don't really realize they're hooked, or they just kind of figure something weird's going on, and then they see the boat and they go crazy. And that's the last place that I want a knot between me and my fish. I want to land that fish. That's what I came out there for. Whether I release it or take it home and fry it, it doesn't matter. I want to land them either way, get the picture, and let them go. So generally speaking, 1/8 inch below the arbor, tie your leader on, 3 wraps onto that, go fish. If this is another one that I could throw out there for you, if you find that you get line twist and pending bait, the bait is what depends on line twist, right? If you're fishing a drop shot, or you're dragging something out, or you're pulling something through a water column somewhere and it's a spinning bait of some sort, or it's got a spinner on it, or just reeling it in and throwing it back out and reeling it in or throwing it back out is spinning, everything's going to create line twist. There's no way to avoid that. Everybody says they use certain lines and they don't ever get line twist. I usually call BS on that. I've never seen that yet. You can cut everything off of that line, and I mean everything off that line. No hooks, no leader, no nothing, and then just let that line out. Just let it out when you're leaving the harbor or the dock or whatever. Let 3/4, maybe everything but 4 or 5 wraps off of that spool, and just let it drag behind the boat for a little while. And that'll let that line untwist as it's dragging through the water column, and then just flip that bail over by hand and reel it all back in. And it'll pack on that reel beautifully. One, it's under tension. Two, it's damp, so it's going to pack even better. And you won't have any more issues for a couple of months at least. Once you've locked some twist into a line, it's tough to get rid of, but that's the best way I've found to get rid of it. Now, it's not fun, but you can also do this from the bank. If you're shore fishing or you're bank fishing, you can throw that line out there, just kind of get it whipping like a fly line, get it out there and just walk down the bank and let a lot of that out. And then once you get a bunch of it out, just walk down the bank and pull it for a while. It'll take a lot of the twist out of that line, then you can reel it right back onto that spool again, and you'll be good to go for a while. It's really very effective, and it's not something I think a lot of people know about or a lot of people have heard about, but that is a great trick to get line twist out. It works really well.
Okay.